Your rights are inherent. You can never be separated from your rights. There are other things about you which are inherent. The dreams that you had last night are inherent. You can tell us your dreams, but nobody sleeps with earplugs worried that somebody's going to come in the middle of the night and steal your dreams. They are a part of who you are. The thoughts that you are having right now are inherent. Nobody controls your thoughts except you. If I stand here and say, well, for the next 45 minutes, you are not allowed to think of a black cat, would that edict have any authority whatsoever? Is it possible for me to prohibit you from thinking? In fact, even if you are trying to comply with my request, you have to think of a black cat first so that you can draw the circle and line through it. So your dreams are inherent. Your thoughts are inherent. And your rights are inherent. They are a part of you, and they do not come from a piece of paper. The Declaration doesn't grant you rights. The Constitution doesn't grant you rights. The Bill of Rights does not grant you any rights. If we were to burn the Constitution and shred the Bill of Rights right here in the front, how would that affect your rights? It wouldn't. Not at all. It would destroy perhaps a relic, an important historic relic, but it would have no effect whatsoever upon your rights because those rights are inherent. A privilege is defined as a particular and peculiar benefit or advantage enjoyed by a company, person, company, or class beyond the common advantages of other citizens. My simplified version of that is that a privilege is something that someone of a higher authority allows you to do. In other words, something that you need to get permission for. Do you need permission to think? Do you need permission to have dreams at night? If you don't need permission for those things, then why would you need permission to exercise your right? And there are only two possibilities. This is our axiom, our fundamental understanding. This is the definition of our reality, that rights and privileges are opposites. You have black and white, true and false, rights and privileges. They are not the same. They are mutually exclusive. They are opposites of each other. Either you need permission or you don't. We, the people, have individual rights. We are born with those rights. We, the people, give government privileges. We allow the government to do what it does. At least that's the way that it's supposed to be. Let's look at the way things are. Okay, first of all, it says all legislative powers herein granted. If we are granting legislative powers, would these legislative powers be rights or privileges? They would have to be privileges because we, the people, are granting those powers. Well, if we can grant them, we can also take them away. If we gave you the authority, we can remove that authority. Those powers, those legislative powers can be revoked. Well, okay, that's a little bit of a gray area. Which legislative powers can be revoked? All legislative powers. Those of you familiar with the Declaration of Independence should be familiar with the, quote, the right of the people to alter or abolish the government, specifically a tyrannical government. And it all depends on whether we relinquish or revoke some of those privileges to alter it, or revoke all of those privileges to abolish it, and to start over with new guards for their future security. So we need to understand that it is the people who create the government. It is not the government who creates the people. We need to understand that proper flow of government. So what is the actual status in the United States? Well, anytime the government gives you permission, anytime they allow you to do something, they let you know by giving you a permit or a license. Permit is a verb: to suffer, allow, consent, to give, leave, or license. License is a noun, a personal privilege to do some particular act or series of acts on land without possessing any estate or interest therein, and is ordinarily revocable at the will of the licensor. This supports my theory that if somebody gives you a privilege, they can take it away. This is fundamental. So the government will issue a concealed carry permit. They will issue a driver's license, giving us permission. How does the government give us permission? We have rights. We give the government permission. Anywhere I happen to be standing is a free speech zone. The government doesn't tell me what I can or cannot say, and the government doesn't tell me where I can or cannot say it. During the 2004 presidential campaign, at the Republican and Democratic conventions, they had a free speech zone a mile and a half from the convention, which consisted of a chain link fence topped by razor wire. That is not a free speech zone. Also very important is the petition. We have the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, I know it's highly unlikely that anybody working for the government would violate somebody's rights. But if that ever happens, what recourse does that person have? Well, basically, according to the First Amendment, you can file a lawsuit against the government in court and win. Anybody who thinks they can win in our current court system is, let me know. I got some oceanfront property in Arizona that I can let you have. But theoretically, we do have the right to alter or abolish the government, or in more civilized situations, petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, I've been quoted many times. One of people's favorite quotes was my statement that if the First Amendment doesn't work, the Second Amendment will. The Second Amendment is also frequently misinterpreted. Most people think that a well-regulated militia means the National Guard, which is an interesting argument because the Bill of Rights was ratified in 1791. The National Guard didn't come into existence until 1903. So if well-regulated militia refers to the National Guard, then two things are also true. The Founding Fathers were omniscient and able to predict the future, and the Second Amendment didn't mean anything until 1903. I reject both of those hypotheses. The Ninth Amendment basically says that the Bill of Rights is not a complete and comprehensive list. I could give you 1,000 examples of rights that you clearly have that are never mentioned in the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights are just the ones that the Founding Fathers thought were most important. Now, the 10th Amendment works in the opposite direction. The 9th Amendment says just because it's not listed, the people can still do it. The 10th Amendment says the powers not delegated to the United States federal government by the Constitution, nor prohibited by the Constitution to the states, are reserved respectively to the states or to the people. Now, I admit that sounds a little bit like, yes, we have no bananas. I have to stop and look at this several times before I can understand it. But ultimately, what it establishes is that we, the people, are the source of all political power in the United States. We, the people, invented the state governments and vested them with limited power. The state governments then got together and created the federal government and gave us a percentage of their power and vested it into the federal government. So on this scale, we the people are on top. The state governments are there to defend us against the federal government, and the federal government is small, tiny, and at the bottom of the pyramid. As James Madison says, its powers are few and well defined. I challenge you to find an aspect of your life that the federal government does not think it has the authority to control. One of the things that the federal government is doing right now is trying to put Amish farmers out of business for selling raw milk. We're not talking marijuana, cocaine, heroin. This is milk. You know, the white stuff that comes out of a cow? And the government is telling you you can't drink it unless it's been processed by the government? Don't think of a black cat. Well, telling me not to drink raw milk is going to have just about as much effect. I own my body. I decide what food I eat. I decide what liquids I drink. And I decide whether or not I am going to defend my individual rights. This is absolutely fundamental. The only legitimate purpose of any government at the county, state, or federal level is to protect the life, liberty, and private property of the citizens. If that government is doing anything else, it is illegitimate.